Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have the Martian meltdown. For this one, we are taking a trip off planet because finally, someone is predicting that something bad is going to happen somewhere else, not right here on Earth for us all to suffer. The prophet apparently has a grim prediction for Mars for this 2023, saying that, quote, "the light of Mars will go out." Of course, this is a bit different of a meaning in this day and age, so people are speculating what this could mean. While this could be a prediction that something bad might happen to the planet by fate of the cosmos, others think this could be a prediction that relates to our exploration of Mars and more specifically any upcoming manned missions. Perhaps something with a company like SpaceX with future plans to send people to Mars might happen, or perhaps we'll find evidence that a trip to Mars just isn't feasible for humans. Of course though, like with anything on this list, only time will tell. In our number 9 spot today, we have the Palace Peril. One of the predictions made by Nostradamus suggested that this year there would be a, quote, celestial fire on the royal edifice. People, of course, have been scrambling to figure out what exactly this could mean, and so far people believe this is predicting a grim fate for Buckingham Palace. The prediction, of course, was made before Buckingham Palace was even built, but that doesn't mean it couldn't come to fruition. Perhaps this could be in reference to the Harry and Meghan Netflix debacle we saw last month. Some people, however, think that based on the words celestial fire, that perhaps the palace might be set on fire by an asteroid. I definitely am leaning towards a less literal approach, but hey, I am not the seer or the prophet here. I'm just here to tell you what he said. In our number 8 spot today, we have the end. This one comes from the list of Nostradamus predictions that he had, and it predicts a pretty grim situation. Apparently he wrote, quote, "few young people half dead to give start." Well, a vivid imagination might be able to come up with a few ideas of what this might be predicting. Apparently people have said that this prediction is intended to be about the beginning of the zombie apocalypse. It's both good and terrifying to note that people have been thinking of the zombie apocalypse for centuries. It's not just part of our modern world. Apparently Nostradamus wrote that the apocalypse would start off with a Russian scientist and lead to total extinction. Okay, well, that's something nice to look forward to for this year. I started off glass half full and I'm trying to keep it that way, but at this point it's getting hard. Maybe all of the doomsday preppers are right. At this point only time will tell. In our number 7 spot today we have the riot. In his book of quatrains and prophecies, Nostradamus wrote, quote, "sooner or later you will see great changes made, horrors and terrible revenges." Definitely doesn't sound great, but what people are speculating this to mean is that there will be upheavals and civil rebellion seen in the new year. The prediction continues on with, quote, "trumpets are shaking in great controversy," and, quote, "an agreement that has been broken." This is all leading people to believe that this could be the setup for some sort of revolution, although it's not quite clear where in the world this is speaking about or what issue it covers. All over the world there are people speaking up and out about the issues that they are facing, so it's tough to pinpoint one area it could be, although many people believe it could be about the uprising and protests seen in Iran, which many believe will only continue on and escalate. In our number 6 spot today, we have the warm waters. For this one, we have this fun little message that delivers a terrifying prediction for the future of our oceans. Nostradamus wrote, quote, "like the sun, the head shall sear the shining sea, the Black Sea's living fish shall all but boil." Okay, yeah, definitely not a good look so far. It seems as though the seer is predicting that the fish in the sea are basically going to be heated to death, and recent studies might be suggesting the same thing. Some more recent research is starting to suggest that some of the most commonly consumed fish could face extinction due to climate change and the warming of our oceans. Of course, this is concerning considering the fact that this is one of humanity's major food sources, but if there was a major die-off of species, who knows what would happen to the species that could survive the warmer waters. I mean, a drastic change like that could completely destroy an ecosystem. It's definitely a terrifying prediction, and if research continues to back it up, things are starting to look a lot more grim. Coming in at our halfway mark in our number 5 spot, we have gone nuclear. This Nostradamus prediction is one that could certainly become a reality at any point, which is something that is pretty terrifying. In this day and age, the threat of a nuclear attack, while not an imminent threat, is always kinda there, hanging out in the back of people's minds. Like, it's not something most people think about every day, but it's just something that we know people possess the technology and the ability to do, you know? And like I've mentioned a bunch of times today, with the things that are currently going on, it seems as though it's more than just hanging out in the back of our minds. It's a scary reality, and that's why this Nostradamus prediction is just a little eerie, as he claims a nuclear bomb will explode in 2023, and if this wasn't bad enough, it has some harsh implications. He is said to have predicted that this explosion will lead to changes in not only the climate, but also the Earth's position. Not exactly certain what he means by the Earth's position, but what I do know is that that sounds terrible and terrifying. Like, the position of the Earth in the solar system, just in general, like, I've got so many questions. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Antichrist. Some people believe that Nostradamus predicted that in 2023 we will see the rise of the Antichrist, who will swiftly wage a war against those who don't believe in him. According to the New York Post, Nostradamus wrote, quote, "The Antichrist very soon annihilates the three. 27 years his war will last. The unbelievers are dead, captive, exiled, with blood, human bodies, water, and red hail covering the earth." Okay? Definitely not the 2023 I had in mind. At this point, it isn't clear who this could refer to, but of course, with any of these predictions, people will find a way to fit it to match any real world event currently ongoing. But the thing is, only time will truly tell. Some think that perhaps it could relate to a sort of politician or political situation, but others believe that this isn't referring to just one person, and instead is referring to many people that are already on the move. In our number 3 spot today, we have famine. Food instability isn't a new thing, and for those of us fortunate enough to have constant access to food, we have noticed the prices of food going up. And according to some experts, this might relate back to a prediction Nostradamus made for us. He wrote, quote, "No abbots, monks, no novices to learn, honey shall cost far more than candle wax, so high the price of wheat that man is stirred, his fellow man to eat in his despair." Basically, in this prediction, he's saying that the cost of food is going to rise so high that it's going to lead people to eat other people. Definitely the most extreme of situations and a terrifying thought, but the prediction doesn't have to be taken so literally either. While maybe what he said is exactly what he means, this also could just be a prediction that people won't be as kind or giving as they normally are. People might turn their backs on those in need more in order to have more for themselves. You know, more of a dog-eat-dog world sort of a situation. I truly hope that this is not the case, so fingers crossed for 2023, I guess. In our number 2 spot today, we have asteroids. This is one of those predictions that seemingly pops up every year and doesn't just come from long ago. It's basically the idea that an asteroid is going to impact Earth. It's a prediction that no one wants to come true, but for some reason, we also always guess that it might. It's really weird. Humans are very strange. Nostradamus' words were, quote, "Fire do I see that from the sky shall fall." I'm not exactly sure if he means like a small meteor shower kind of thing, or if he's talking mass extinction, it's the apocalypse kind of thing, but either way, it's a little unnerving. In 2021, we had a near miss with asteroid 2021 GW4, but it wasn't thought to be a huge deal either way because it likely would have broken up in our atmosphere. Right now, it is said that the next near miss prediction is for around 2029, and that's from scientists. So at this point, I feel like we're probably safe, but who's to say for sure? People have also suggested that perhaps instead of asteroids, this prediction might be about missiles falling from the sky, which is honestly just as terrifying at this point. In our number 1 spot today, we have the climate disaster. According to Nostradamus, it is increasingly possible that the Earth might need to brace itself and get ready to go through another climate disaster in 2023. I know, not what any of us would like to hear. Mother Nature is terrifying, she is powerful, and we really are just sort of at the mercy of the weather and climate. According to experts, Nostradamus wrote, quote, "The dry land will dry up even more, and there will be great floods when you see the rainbow." It seems like perhaps we might be in for some periods of drought before the flood comes. Throughout the years, we've definitely seen some worsening weather in a multitude of ways. The Earth ebbs and flows and goes through changes, and we really are just along for the ride. All I know is that through this list, it's become quite clear that 2023 might be one wild ride.
Kicking off our list at number 10, artificial intelligence. This one sounds silly, but we're actually quite close to Ultron in real life. Nice. We have robots that do parkour. You can push these things around and they'll still continue to do their little silly robot walk. Robots are so scary. Now, imagine Siri if she decided to go rogue one day and take over the body of one of these Boston Dynamic parkour robots. Then what? It's game over. I've seen iRobot, okay? I don't want any part of this future. According to CB Insights, where they asked 52 experts, they all agreed that AI will eventually be our downfall, and by that time it'll be too late. Even the late Stephen Hawking said AI would be impossible to control. Elon Musk, he's been reinforcing how crucial it is right now to regulate AI. We can't regulate technology that we can't predict. Elon Musk. Number 9. Apophis. Yeah, we thought the world was going to end in 2012 and the Mayan calendar tipped us off, thank you for that. But luckily nothing happened. They even made a movie about it. John Cusack got a paycheck all for nothing. All because of the Mayan calendar. Well, we might be seeing another disaster movie in 8 years, with the asteroid Apophis coming close. It's in the category of potentially hazardous asteroids, and on April 13th, 2029, it's gonna barely miss Earth in its passing. And around 2 billion people will be able to witness the possible end with their naked eye. Yeah, it's that close. An asteroid might hit us on Friday the 13th in 2029. Scientists were actually unsure about if this thing would hit or not, and even to this day, Earth's gravitational pull may just influence this near miss. So it might actually hit us. Who knows? Fingers crossed. Number 8. Yellowstone National Park. Nothing like a big old volcano to shake up your day. Sweet. The supervolcano rumbling under Yellowstone National Park could wipe out millions any second. It's exploded 3 times in the past. Once 2 million years ago, once 1 million years ago, and then once 664,000 years ago. And the next one, well, could happen as soon as you click like and subscribe. Yeah, could happen right now. Back in 2014, a team of researchers laid out what an erupting Yellowstone would actually look like in real life, and it's horrifying. It's massive. Entire states would be gone just like that. Hot magma would rain down as far as San Francisco, so it would be Pompeii all over again. And on top of all that chaos, volcanic ash would cover most of our sunlight, so bye-bye crops and tan lines. It would be a dark and cold world for a little while. They of course had a Yellowstone scene in the movie 2012, the classic John Cusack one I just mentioned, and while it's cinematic, I guess, it would be a lot louder and way faster, okay? Number 7. True Way. There was a UFO religion from Taiwan that predicted the end of the world. True Way religion mixes Christianity, Buddhism, Taiwanese folk religion, and UFO conspiracy theories all balled into one to create this way of belief. And their leader, Han Chen, believed that the end of the world was near. He preached that God himself would appear on US national television, on channel 18, very specific, on March 25th, 1988, all to announce that he would be returning to Earth in the following week. The following year, he preached that millions of devil spirits, as well as massive floodings, would result in the mass extinction of the human population. It sounded pretty alarming, of course, but Han Chen had a plan to save those who followed him and his beliefs. He told his followers that to save themselves from this horrible fate, they could pay to board a spacecraft disguised as a cloud that would then be sent to rescue them. Number 6. Harold Camping. Harold here was obsessed with trying to predict the end of the world. He publicly predicted the end of the world at least 12 times, and he even published a book in 1992 titled 1994, where of course he predicted that the world would end sometime around that year. Now, seeing as I was born that year, I'd say we're all good 27 years later. He based his predictions on biblical numerology, but it wasn't exactly accurate. His most high-profile prediction of the end of the world was May 21st, 2011, exactly 7,000 years after the biblical flood. But when that day passed and everything was, still not submerged in seawater, he readjusted his prediction, saying that his math was actually off and the world would actually end on October 21st, 2011 instead. Number 5. Sun gamma bursts. Our sun is hot. She's bumping, she's keeping us alive, getting us, well, certainly not me, still pale in August, but she's helping out some of us. The northern lights are a fun result from cosmic activity, but can we handle any more than that beauty? When we look at extinction level events like, say, a meteor hitting the planet, we can bounce back from that, right? Not dinosaurs, but humans, sure, we have a fighting chance. When it comes to gamma rays hitting the planet, that's kind of it, guys, not gonna lie to you. Unless you're the Incredible Hulk and you soak it all up, you're not gonna have a pleasant go. Gamma rays happen when stars explode in distant galaxies. Light and energy then shoots out, along with radio waves, neutrinos, and gamma rays, just a cosmic confetti of all shapes and sizes, and all that good space stuff travels light years through space, and if they were to hit Earth, our ozone would just be toast forever. We would be engulfed in a chemical smog. Number 4. passing asteroids. On August 16th, 2020, a small asteroid shot past our planet, barely 3,000 kilometers above Earth's surface. That's really close. God, how did we not hear about this more? We may not even see it coming either. That's the scary thing. This August asteroid was only discovered a few hours after it made its close call to Earth. So even if it did hit Earth, we wouldn't even, there'd be no tip-off. We would just all of a sudden not exist. So that's probably ideally the best way to go. I don't know. Number 3. Millerism. Religious leader William Miller started preaching in 1831 that the world was going to end. According to him, the end times would come within the second coming of Christ and that he would return in 1843. This prediction led Miller to gaining 100,000 followers, in real life of course, and they believed that in the end, they too would be carried off to heaven with William Miller. Nice, just how we want to go. Obviously the world didn't actually end in 1843. Miller recalculated, and instead he then predicted that the end of the world and Jesus' second coming would happen the following year in 1844. Documents were found on one of Miller's followers who wrote about his experience waiting for the predicted events to unfold, and he seemed a little upset that nothing happened. It's kind of funny to look back on. The follower, a man named Henry Emmons, wrote, and I quote, "I waited all Tuesday, and dear Jesus did not come. I lay prostrate for 2 days without any panic, sick with disappointment." End quote. Number 2. A great fire. Back in the 1600s, London saw quite the blaze, and it was predicted long before, as are most of these catastrophic events. The Great Fire of 1666. Nice, 666, devil, nice, hit that subscribe button. In the Bible, it references the number 666 as the number of the beast, living in the depths below. So many Christians in Europe at the time, back in the 1600s, believed that the world was going to end in 1666. It's kind of like our version of the Mayan calendar debacle in 2012. Thing is, the Great Fire actually happened that year. Yeah, September 2nd to September 5th, the blaze destroyed the city, including 87 churches and 13,000 homes. Many saw this as the prophecy of the end of the world coming true, but on the bright side of all this, pun not intended, with all the property damage, the death toll for this Great Fire was relatively low. Only 10 people died, which is actually insane when you think about it. And finally, number 1, the Great Flood. This one is most likely how we will meet our collective demise. Here we go. Hope you got your water wings. Back in the 1500s, German mathematician and astrologer Johann Staufler predicted that a great flood would cover the world and result, of course, in the death of humanity and all of our loved ones as we know it. He even pinpointed a date, February 25th, 1524. This was when all the planets would be aligned under Pisces, which was a water sign, so you obviously see where I'm heading with this one. Soon after he made this prediction, hundreds of pamphlets were spread around warning of this great flood, and as you can imagine, this caused immediate panic. A German nobleman believed this, maybe a little too much, and he gathered all of his resources to build a 3-story ark. He went full-on Noah for this doomsday prediction. He had a 3-story ark built, and in the end though, when the day of February 25th, 1524 arrived, it rained. And that's about it. Yeah, it was a light one at most. No flooding going on here.
At number 10 now, we're going to start with the one a lot of you guys might remember, 2012. December 21st, 2012 was the day that the ancient Mayan calendar would end and a new one would begin. Now some people took this to mean there would be a spiritual transition for the world, others thought it would mean the literal end of it. The theories for this range from giant tidal waves to crust-shattering earthquakes. There was also the belief that the Earth was going to collide with a mysterious planet X, or that the magnetic poles would shift on Earth. It was all pretty crazy stuff, but it caught on so much they even made it into a movie called 2012. Some of you guys may have seen it. Doesn't really have the same appeal now that we all survived it. Coming at number 9 now, we have the prophecy hen of Leeds. I love this one. Back in 1806, in the city of Leeds in England, a lot of people were convinced the world was gonna end. They thought this because it was written on the freshly laid eggs of some hens. This is actually true. People from all over England went to visit Mary Bateman, whose hens were said to be laying eggs with the phrase "Christ is coming" on them. People believed that this was a prophecy of doomsday, that Jesus was going to come back and start the end times. Well, 1806 came and went, and the egg's words didn't actually come true. That's because Mary Bateman had faked them. She would write the messages on the egg and then insert them back up into the hens. I don't think the victims in this were the ones who believed all of it. I think it was the poor hens. Alright, coming out at number 8 now, we have Y2K. Now a lot of you guys may be too young to remember this, but in the run up to the new millennium in 1999, a lot of people were scared of Y2K. Experts have pointed out that a lot of computers in the world weren't actually programmed to handle the change in date from 1999 to 2000. It sounds kind of stupid now, but it's true. Some people thought that this would bring the end of the digital age before it had even begun. The computer systems all over the world would just break down, the Y2K would cause a virus fatal to every computer and pretty much send us back to the Stone Age. In the end, some computers did break or display the wrong date, but we got past it. Now we've just got to hope that we fix all of this before the year 3000. We've got a little bit of time. Next up at number 7 now, we have Heaven's Gate. Now this one is dumb, but it's also kind of sad for me. See what you guys make of it though. In 1997, the Halley-Bopp comet appeared in the night sky, first time in thousands of years. A whole cult sprang up in San Diego who believed that an alien spacecraft was traveling behind the comet and that they had to get on board because the Earth was about to be wiped clean. They called themselves Heaven's Gate. Now they believed the only way to get to this spaceship was to leave their current vessels behind, which was their bodies. So on March 26, 1997, 39 members of the cult drank poison and died. The leader of the cult was obviously a mentally ill psychopath who made a very dumb prediction. I just feel really bad for the people who went along with it. Alright, next up at number 6 now, we have the Jupiter effect. In the mid 1970s, some people believed that the world was going to end on March 10th, 1982. This would be the date when all of the planets would perfectly align on the same side of the Sun, even Pluto, which was a planet back then. They thought the gravitational effect of all the planets lining up would affect the Earth, leading to huge storms as well as earthquakes and volcanoes, the likes of which we have never seen before, the end of the world. Now all of this came from a book called The Jupiter Effect, the author of which went on to say later that he was sorry he ever had anything to do with it. As you can probably tell from today's date, the world did not end in 1982. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Robert Fitzpatrick. This man belonged to an evangelical group who believed that the world was going to end on May 21st, 2011. Now they had got this information from certain Bible passages and secret codes within them, and Robert decided he wanted to share this news with everyone. He then spent $140,000 of his own money traveling around America to warn other people that on this judgment day the earth would be swallowed up by fires, earthquakes and tsunamis. He said that only the righteous would be spared this fate by being sucked up into heaven. Robert gained quite a bit of fame in the lead up to this day and decided to prove everyone wrong in public by spending the very last hour in Times Square in New York. Now of course when it didn't happen he was mercilessly mocked by the crowd around him. He just sat there, kind of flicked through his Bible and kept saying he didn't understand why it hadn't happened. This is another one where I do feel kind of sad because this guy obviously had a serious disconnect from reality. Alright, coming in at number 4 now, we have Obama is the Antichrist. A lot of people really like President Obama, some people didn't, but I think everyone can agree he was definitely a human. Well, not everyone, unfortunately. In 2008, when Obama was first elected, an email chain started spreading around the world. It said that according to the Bible, the Antichrist will be a man in his 40s of Muslim descent who will deceive the nations with persuasive language and have a massive Christ-like appeal. The prophecy says that people will flock to him and he will promise false home and world peace, and when he is in power, he will destroy everything. Is it Obama? Now amazingly, a sizable amount of people actually believe this rubbish, and they really thought that Obama was the Antichrist who would destroy the world. What a sad thought. I'm glad they were wrong. Okay, coming in at number 3 now, we have the Black Rainbow. Jerron Criswell Koenig was a popular American psychic who died in 1982. Now throughout his life he made a lot of quite strange predictions. For example, he said there would one day be cannibalism in Pennsylvania and that a great drought would leave New York in ruins. But perhaps his strangest prediction was the Black Rainbow. Criswell said that on Wednesday, August 18th, 1999, every point on Earth would be covered by a black rainbow, the darkest black you can imagine. The black rainbow will then start sucking up the oxygen from our atmosphere like a huge snake suffocating its prey. For the next few hours, we will all grow weaker and weaker as we couldn't breathe, and then we will all go silently, gasping for breath, and there will be only silence on the Earth. Lovely stuff. Well, I had my birthday not long after that day, and I remember the oxygen levels were pretty fine. Had some nice cake too. Alright, moving on to number 2 now, we have Baba Vanga. This Bulgarian woman who died in 1996 had the catchy name of Nostradamus from the Balkans. She made a bunch of different predictions, but one in particular stood out: World War III. She even gave the year this would happen, 2016. She said the continent of Europe will be left almost empty after being turned into a nuclear wasteland almost entirely devoid of any life forms. I mean, to be fair now, with the way the past few years have been going, a nuclear war hasn't seemed quite so crazy as it used to be. Hopefully, if any of you guys are watching this years from now, things will have calmed down a little bit. But still, she said 2016, so she was wrong, technically. Sorry, Bubba. And finally at number 1 now, guys, we have Pat Robertson. He is an American minister who is known for his evangelical Christian TV shows. Now, one of his shows was called The 700 Club, and in late 1976, he made a doomsday prediction on it. He said that in October or November 1982, the world would end. 4 years later, he clarified this by saying, "I guarantee you, by the end of 1982, there is going to be a judgment on the world." Obviously, like everything else on our list, he was sorely mistaken. But it wasn't all doom and gloom. In 2011, Robertson and other people who incorrectly predicted the end of the world were awarded the IG Nobel Prize, teaching the world to be careful when making mathematical assumptions and calculations. Ouch, that's gotta hurt. A little bit of a burn.
Number 10. The Doomsday Clock. In the year 1947, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists, which included Albert Einstein, came together and created what they called the Doomsday Clock. As its name suggests, the Doomsday Clock is a clock. The hand is set to the amount of time they believe it is until midnight. The amount of time is usually expressed in minutes. The less time left, the closer we are to midnight, or the end of the world. When they first created the clock, the time was set based on tensions with Russia and threats of nuclear disaster. So what is the clock telling us now, and should we really be that worried about it? As it stands, it is only 100 seconds to midnight, the least amount of time that the clock has ever been set to. This change was made in 2021 with the onslaught of COVID-19. They also mentioned the growing threat of climate change, as well as rising political tensions and the continued concern for nuclear warfare coming from many different countries around the world. So obviously we know the idea of a doomsday clock may be a bit silly, and it's obviously not actually 100 seconds until the world ends, or else I wouldn't be here and rather maybe trying to watch a few last TikToks before the apocalypse. However, the Doomsday Clock has taken into account very real situations that the world is dealing with in order to determine its warnings for change, so it's certainly not something to just brush off. As we continue this list, we will get more into depth about a few of the things that the Doomsday Clock has warned us about. Number 9. Natural disasters. In the past few years, you may have noticed more and more articles, tweets, videos, and other posts about volcanoes, tornadoes, hurricanes, and other natural disasters. This isn't just because you're sitting and doom scrolling on your phone too much. It's a scientific fact. The World Meteorological Organization tells us that over the past 50 years, there has been a significant increase in dangerous weather, climate, and water hazards. So much, in fact, that they have said a disaster of this kind has happened, on average, every single day of the last 50 years. 45% of all reported deaths are in relation to natural disasters, most significantly droughts, storms, floods, and extreme temperatures. The Secretary General of the organization also says it's more likely that these conditions are just going to continue to get worse. We can only wonder just how much more of these extreme events that the world can take as they continue to cause massive natural and economic damages to countries and communities all over the world. Could this be a sign that something bigger is coming? Number 8. The ice caps. We've all seen the commercials and pictures of a lonely polar bear losing his habitat and starving. Well, these images aren't just supposed to make you feel bad for the bear. They are a genuine warning towards the massive changes that are actively happening to our world and have been happening for a little while now. Climate change has been warned for decades, and as we struggle to make any major changes in impact, it just seems to be getting worse. You may be thinking, well, I'm not a polar bear, why should I be worried about a few icebergs melting away? Well, let me tell you the facts of the situation. If you're a fan of eating, then you should be worried about the ice caps. The increase in temperature and weather instability caused by the melting is causing significant damages to crops, affecting both the yield and price of food across the globe. The Greenland ice sheet continuing to melt is also a massive threat for those who live in coastal communities. As the sea level rises, it could mean that entire cities are lost to the water, becoming completely flooded and eventually submerged. This could be a warning that in the maybe not so distant future, the whole world could be at threat of going underwater. Number 7.
Ice Age. As it turns out, the exact opposite could also be true, as some scientists believe we may be getting close to another ice age. And no, I don't mean another movie sequel about a woolly mammoth. While Greenland's ice melting could mean a new Atlantis, it could also mean a nightmare for those of us who don't enjoy the cold. It is believed that the increase in fresh water will cause a significant change in the way our waterways have been functioning. There are large streams which carry warm water north, and the melting would have an impact on that, preventing warm water from traveling. It's theorized that this would cause a large decline in the temperature of places like Europe, which rely on these streams. William H. Calvin made startling comparisons in an article about how the climate change we are experiencing now is very similar to the one that happened just before famous ice ages in history. The only difference being that ours is man-made. He suggests that this would have devastating effects, as there would be an impact on food systems, leading to political confrontations and potentially war. I think the only way we can know for sure that the ice age is coming is to keep your eye out for a prehistoric squirrel chasing after an acorn. Number 6. Politics, the one thing you should never bring up at the dinner table. Well, good thing I'm not eating dinner. It's no secret that the populations of Earth have never really done the greatest job of getting along. We've all spent enough time sitting in history classes and writing essays on the world wars to know that. The recent conflict in Ukraine is just another sign that things don't seem to be getting better, but instead much worse. Politicians are constantly at each other's throats, whether it be over economy, land, or even much simpler matters. As the doomsday clock has warned for decades, nuclear war is a real threat, with 9 countries across the world now contributing to what is called the nuclear stockpile. The arguments of the people in charge could lead to a catastrophic fallout across the world, completely devastating and changing forever the world that we know today. We can only hope that people will continue to grow and change and find a way for everyone to get along, or at least resolve our issues a little more safely. Number 5. Aliens. You can't make a list about anything without suggesting that it may all come down to aliens. Whether it be crop circles or the pyramids, there's always at least one person sporting a tinfoil hat. Well, today I'm taking the tinfoil hat to tell you about how aliens may be coming to Earth and how they'll bring about the end of the world. There are constant UFO sightings reported all over the world, and if you really get into it, they're not all as cheesy or unbelievable as you might think. And they're not all anonymous postings to YouTube either. UFOs have even been reported by Navy vessels. With the increase in discussions of aliens, UFOs, and perhaps their residence in Area 51, let's talk about what might actually happen if ET decided to make his home here. Well, first of all, they might not come in peace. If they've got the power to influence history and travel across the universe to another planet, you may imagine they might have some pretty powerful weapons. And if they saw the movie adaptation of Cats, they probably have no interest in keeping us humans around to make any more mistakes. But hey, maybe they will come to just say hi. Even then, scientists think it's most likely they will bring with them a plethora of diseases which may very well wipe out the human race, even if unintentionally. Either way, I think I'm fine with the aliens staying on their own planets for now. Number 4. Asteroid. Aliens aren't the only thing coming from space. There are plenty of asteroids flying around up there too. In recent history, there have been plenty of warnings from organizations like NASA that a massive asteroid may be getting a little bit too close to Earth for comfort. So far nothing has come of it yet, so should we really be that concerned? I know I certainly am. I don't know about you, but I'm not too keen on being slapped in the face by a giant space rock. If NASA is concerned enough to run multiple asteroid drills over the last decade, then I think it's fair to say that it's a very real threat. A few articles suggest that there is a large asteroid with a near 96% chance of hitting the Earth in the year 2027. It would leave a crater almost 4 kilometers long, not to mention the devastating effects of shockwaves, tsunamis, and more. As most people are aware, Earth is just floating in space. There's nothing to protect us from asteroids crashing into us, no fences or giant metal walls. It's not a far out thought to imagine that an asteroid could mean the end of the world. Number 3. The simulation. I know you're probably sitting there laughing at me suggesting that we may actually be living in a simulation, but I'm sure you've experienced one of those scenarios that seemed a little too crazy to really be happening. Whether it be as simple as a song coming on the radio right after you thought of it, or someone seeming to disappear right in front of your eyes. We all have stories of these glitches in the simulation, and they seem to be becoming more and more common. The idea of a simulation isn't recent either. Consider Plato's The Cave, which tells a story of people trapped in a cave, who think that the shadows on the cave wall, all they've ever known, is their true reality, even though there's much more outside the cave that they aren't aware of. The Mandela effect and the fact that basically everything in our world can be explained by math and patterns are two very popular pieces of evidence towards the theory that our lives may be a simulation. As we see more and more of these signs and apparent glitches, it may be a sign that we're close to waking up. Number 2. Artificial intelligence. We've seen it in movies and read it in books a dozen times. Robots and artificial intelligence turning evil and threatening to take over the world. But are these pieces of fiction really that far off from reality? It seems like these stories are coming closer and closer to coming true every day. While it may not be a red-eyed Terminator coming for us, there are plenty of robots and systems being developed today that could just be our downfall. You have likely seen videos of Sophia the robot, who can talk to you just like you're talking to another human being, or perhaps the Boston Dynamics robot dog, who could be the next step in military action. The world of robotics has taken leaps and bounds in recent history, and it's only continuing to become more and more advanced. As we watch these robots learn to act just as we do, it's only a matter of time before they stop listening to code and learn to make their own decisions. Number 1. Pestilence. There are 4 famous horsemen of the apocalypse: pestilence, war, famine, and death. Today, we're going to be talking about the first and seemingly most relevant, pestilence. These horsemen arrive in order, signifying the end of the world or the apocalypse. The first horse to arrive is pestilence, representing disease and plague. The connection seems obvious, right? I'm sure we're all aware of the disease that has been devastating society for the last few years now. There are also less obvious signs that the horseman is here. As mentioned before, melting ice caps is bringing terrible effects, one of those being the release of ancient diseases that have laid trapped in the ice. Scientists believe that these diseases are going to be released back into the world, and humans are no longer built to fight them off as they've been gone for so long. The rise and widespread of disease that seems to be becoming more and more common appears to be an obvious sign. It may only be a matter of time before the rest of the horsemen arrive, if they're not already here.